Good evening. Welcome to the final Democratic primary debate in the race for mayor of New York City. I'm Errol Lewis, political anchor for Spectrum News New York 1, and we're coming to you from the Gerald W. Lynch Theater at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, located on the west side of Manhattan. I'm joined by Brian Lehrer of WNYC Gothamist and Katie Honan of the news organization The City. The candidates have been making their pitches to New Yorkers for months now, and we are only hours away from the start of early voting across the 5 boroughs, starting on Saturday.
Over the next 2 hours, you're going to hear from the 7 leading Democratic candidates on their proposals on issues directly affecting the lives of New Yorkers. A reminder that the mayoralty is currently held by Adrienne Adams, who has withdrawn from the Democratic primary and is running in the November general election as an independent candidate. Tonight's debate is brought to you by the New York City Campaign Finance Board, the city agency that administers the Public Matching Funds program. It's also sponsored by Spectrum News New York 1, WNYC Gothamist, and The City, and Spectrum Noticias. And our co-sponsors are John Jay College of Criminal Justice, the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at CUNY, the Center for New York City and State Law at New York Law School, and the Museum of the City of New York. And you can watch tonight's debate without a paywall on ny1.com. It's also being broadcast on NYC TV, WNYC Radio, the Spectrum News YouTube page, and C-SPAN, and in Spanish on Spectrum Noticias and YouTube.
The candidates joining us tonight have met a polling or fundraising threshold established by the Campaign Finance Board in order to take part in the debate. In alphabetical order, Adrienne Adams is the City Council Speaker representing parts of Southeast Queens. Andrew Cuomo previously served as governor of the state of New York. Brad Lander is the New York City Comptroller. Zohran Mamdani is a state assembly member representing parts of Queens. Zellnor Myrie is a state senator representing parts of Brooklyn. Scott Stringer is a former city comptroller and Manhattan borough president. And Whitney Tilson is a former hedge fund manager who helped create Teach for America.
Now for the rules. The rules that you see on your screen right now have been agreed to by all of the candidates. Each candidate will deliver an opening statement of up to 45 seconds. Answers to our questions will generally be limited to 60 seconds, with a chance for rebuttals at the discretion of the moderator. And candidates will have an opportunity to ask one opponent one question during our cross-examination round. We're going to begin with opening statements. The order was determined by a random drawing this morning, and so we'll begin with Scott Stringer. Good evening.
Well, good evening. Look, I love New York City. I was born and raised here, and I believe the future of this city can be limitless. But let's face it, people are feeling that it's getting tougher to live here. People who built our neighborhoods are leaving the city. Young people who want to lay down roots here do not see enough opportunity. I say enough is enough. We need a mayor who has experience. We need a mayor who has competence, and a mayor who has a vision to build affordable housing, to enact universal child care, to build a public school system so that kids can thrive. I've seen the best of this city in every neighborhood as controller, as a borough president, as a state legislator. And I know that right now at this moment, we need somebody who has the ability to make sure this city can rise again, and I'm going to do it.
Okay. Next is Zellnor Myrie.
This morning, I was on Flatbush Avenue getting my hair cut so I could be fresh for this debate. And one of my constituents walked in and didn't talk to me about politics. She said, "What are you going to do to fight for immigrants like me and my husband?" I got on the train as I left, and I ran into a mother who said, "What are you going to do to fight to help make our schools world class?" So here's the thing. You're going to hear a lot of promises, a lot of nice and cute things on the stage tonight. But when you put your head to the pillow, you want a mayor that is going to fight to keep your family safe, fight to keep that roof over your head, and fight to give you opportunity. I know that because that's what I think about every single day. And I'm ready to put the gloves on as the next mayor to fight to make that a reality.
Thank you. Next candidate is Whitney Tilson.
Good evening. I'm Whitney Tilson, and I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman and philanthropist, and I entered this race because I love this city, but right now it's a mess. It's not talent that we lack. We've got the best and brightest, nor money. We spend double that of any other city in the world. It's leadership, and we can't afford amateur hour in City Hall anymore. It is rightly said that being job of mayor of this complex, enormous city is the second hardest job in the world. That's why we need a mayor who's experienced, competent, and can get things done, not a social media phenom with cute videos. Someone who can balance the budget and make tough choices, not pie-in-the-sky promises that there's no realistic plan to pay for, and someone who will keep us safe by ending chaos, not inciting it, by supporting law enforcement, and by not threatening to defund and dismantle our police. I will be that mayor, and so I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Okay. Our next candidate is Adrienne Adams.
Thank you very much. My name is Adrienne Adams, and I'm running for mayor because I'm an everyday New Yorker, just like all of you are. When I open my front door, I see what every New Yorker sees, and that is we are in need of a change. I raised 4 children in Southeast Queens in the same home that we live in. I buy my own groceries, so I know the costs of groceries for everyday New Yorkers. Look, as the leader of the city council leading the most diverse city council in the history, led by a women majority, I realize what leadership truly is. I'm already doing the job. I have successfully negotiated 3 city budgets. I'm now in the middle of negotiating my 4th city budget. I continue to lead and step in where our current mayor has not, where we have fought through the city council budget cuts. We have saved public libraries and pre-K. I'm Adrienne Adams, already doing the job, asking you to rank me #1, to be the first woman mayor of the city of New York.
Next candidate is Brad Lander.
If you watched last week's debate, you already know I'm not the flashiest candidate in this race. I don't have a famous father. I'm not the best at TikTok. My daughter's here. All her videos do better than mine. But I love this city. I believe in its future, and I know how to make government work better. As controller, I've saved taxpayers over $2 billion, canceled corrupt contracts, managed the pension funds to record highs. I've built or saved over 50,000 affordable homes. As mayor, I'll deliver 500,000 more. That's why today the New York Times opinion panel said I'm the best choice for mayor. I've got the public integrity that New Yorkers deserve, the progressive values that New Yorkers share, and the management chops to deliver on them.
Next is Zohran Mamdani.
My name is Assemblymember Zohran Mamdani, and I am running to make the city affordable. I'll freeze the rent for millions of tenants, make buses fast and free, and deliver universal childcare. And before you ask, I'll pay for it by taxing the rich. The same billionaires who put Donald Trump back in the White House, the same ones who are funding Andrew Cuomo's campaign. Like many New Yorkers, I wasn't born in this country, but I grew up in this city, and it's one that we're in danger of losing. We're under attack from authoritarianism from the outside and an affordability crisis from the inside. Yet if you turned on your television 20 years ago, you'd have heard the same tired, failed policies you'll hear from politicians tonight. It's time for a new generation of leadership. And that's exactly what my campaign is building. A movement of more than 36,000 volunteers who have knocked on nearly 1 million doors and left us just 2 points away from City Hall. So join us, and let's win a New York you can afford.
Next is Andrew Cuomo.
Good evening, and thank you all very much for having me here today. I do have a very famous parent who I'm very proud of, Matilda Cuomo, and I hope she's watching. Everyone has a plan, as you've heard. Everyone always has a plan. That's always the way. But the question for tonight is, who has the ability to get the job done? That's really the question. Who can build housing? I built housing across the nation as HUD secretary. I built LaGuardia Airport, Kosciuszko Bridge, 2nd Avenue Subway, and more. Who can do public safety? While my colleagues were defunding the police, I was adding more police. Who can manage the city? I manage the state that has double the budget of New York City. And who can take on Donald Trump? That is the big question. And he sent troops into cities all across this country, but he never sent them into New York when I was there, and he never will when I am mayor. A job looks easy when you haven't done it. Experience matters. I will get the job done. I will work for you 24/7.
Thank you for your opening statements, candidates. Mr. Cuomo, many New Yorkers are concerned about what's happening in Los Angeles. Workplace immigration raids and deportations, protests with some violence, the president's deployment of the National Guard and the Marines over the objection of the governor and the mayor. The Trump aide Stephen Miller said the mayor has no say. If you were mayor of New York right now, How would you handle this situation if something like that happened here?
Yeah, we had this situation before, right? This is not a case of first impression. President Trump did this in Trump 1. He did it a number of times. He sent troops into cities all across the country. This is him being macho, authoritarianism. He's the commander-in-chief. He never sent them into New York because I said to him, you better never send troops into New York. We don't need them. It would be a hostile act. It would be a problem. Right now, in this situation, we're going to protect our immigrants. This is a sanctuary city, and we are going to defend the laws of the sanctuary city. We have an NYPD that is the largest police force in the United States of America. Donald Trump only picks fights that he can win. He cannot win a fight with me as mayor of New York.
Mr. Mamdani, any contrast so far?
You know, what is so troubling to see right now is we also have the NYPD assisting ICE in some of those very missions right here in New York City. We saw the Strategic Response Group arrest a pastor who was peacefully observing the arrest of a migrant at Federal Plaza. When I am the mayor, the NYPD will serve public safety of New Yorkers. They will not assist Trump's ICE agents. And furthermore, though Donald Trump may not believe in the law, we have to be clear that we do, and we will in fact bring back our law department to its pre-pandemic staffing levels, 200 additional lawyers, and start to provide lawyers for immigrants who are in deportation cases, because we know that by doing so, we in fact increase their likelihood of coming home to their families in New York City by 11 times. Finally, we can see examples in previous mayoral administrations where the mayor's team, like Steve Banks in the last administration, took every single step they could to ensure that none of the personal information the city had would be turned over to the Trump administration. I would follow that example through all of our agencies.
Thank you. Ms. Adams, staying on this topic, but with kind of a follow-up. If the president sees what he thinks is disorder in the streets and believes that local and state law enforcement officials are not doing a good job at protecting citizens and property, why shouldn't he step in? His supporters say that's his responsibility.
We are right now dealing with a lawless president enacting lawless behavior across this entire nation. As one who continues to speak up and out against Donald Trump, currently, Donald Trump would like to bring ICE back onto Rikers Island, which has been illegal since the year 2014. Through an executive order put forth by the deputy mayor of the city of New York, not the mayor of the city of New York, which is unprecedented. They want to bring ICE back onto Rikers Island. And the person that is endorsing me, she is the baddest AG in the nation. Her name is Tish James. She said, Adrienne, if Donald Trump starts to get in your way, sue him. So I am suing him. I am suing the mayoral administration and Donald Trump's ICE. We will continue to protect immigrants when I am mayor, just like I am protecting them as the leader of the city council. We will make sure that Donald Trump's ICE obeys the law. We are a sanctuary city. I am here to protect that in the city council. And when I am mayor, I will continue to protect our laws and our immigrants.
Mr. Lander, continuing on the same track, but if the president says the mayor has no say, which seems to be the case because he did deploy the Marines and the National Guard, what would you do? What could you do?
Let me tell you about how the mayor could have a say. Last Thursday and again this morning, I went down to the federal building to observe immigration court and then accompany immigrants out past ICE agents so they could get out of the federal building and back to their families. One was a couple with kids in our city school system. They were worried they weren't going to see them again. So I stand up to bullies. I don't back down from a fight. And I will make clear that we're going to protect the 40% of New Yorkers who are immigrants, and we're going to keep them safe, and we're going to keep New York City safe. You can de-escalate conflict. What Trump wants is to strike fear and escalate conflict. We're going to make clear we stand up for immigrant New Yorkers, and we de-escalate and keep the peace. I do want to tell you, though, about some immigrant New Yorkers that Andrew Cuomo screwed when he was governor, and we're defending in my office. A couple of hundred immigrant subway cleaners who he made clean the subway cars but cheated out of the prevailing wages and health care that they were due. We're fighting right now to get it back. I stand up to bullies, and I'll stand up to Donald Trump.
Mr. Cuomo, you were named, so we may not be able to do this every time all night, but you were named, so you get a brief response.
I don't know what Mr. Lander is talking about. The MTA contracted for cleaning services. I assume that's what he's talking about. The MTA goes through a rigorous contracting process. They should never have hired illegal immigrants if it is true. But obviously, I had nothing to do with them hiring anyone.
I'm sorry, is that what you said? What did you call them?
If anyone was undocumented or they didn't pay the proper wages, I had nothing to do with it. It would have been done through the MTA.
You didn't pay them the proper wages. You cheated them out of the prevailing wages they were due and the health care they were due.
I didn't contract with them at all. The MTA contracted with them.
Who appoints the chair of the MTA?
Oh, I see. So every contract that the MTA contracts, you want me to be held responsible?
This one, yes, because a couple of hundred immigrant workers got cheated out of $2.5 million and their health care, and the orders came from on high.
Yeah, so you say. If they did it, that would obviously be wrong. The MTA contracts for $6 billion per year. They have multiple contracts. We have a controller on the state of New York who audits the books. I'm sure he's almost as good as you. And if that happened, he would have found out.
Thankfully, these are prevailing wage workers under city contracts.
But still on President Trump, and Mr. Stringer, you can reply to that if you want. But my moving on question is, his administration has made deep cuts to some programs that directly fund services for New Yorkers. A listener to my radio show asks, how do you propose addressing funding shortfalls for critical services, or which programs will you prioritize above others, assuming you can't make up for all the funding gaps? And please tell everybody how you think your approach would be better than the other candidates.
Sure, Brian. Well, look, I was in Trump 1 when I was a city controller. And during that time period, I didn't let him get this city down. During my time, I managed to divest $4 billion from fossil fuels controller. I divested from gun manufacturers. I divested from private prisons. I put the line in the sand with that guy, and I will do the same as mayor. Look, when you grow up in Washington Heights, everything comes your way. And you understand the only way to deal with it as a bully is to draw the line early and fight back. So here's specifically what I'm going to do. First, as mayor, we're going to establish a very, very rainy day fund. We need to get $500 million from the state and $500 million from the city so that we can continue to replenish the money that Donald Trump is taking from us. $80 million is taken in the dead of night. We need to keep the social safety net alive until Hakeem Jeffries becomes the speaker and we can dismantle the Trump organization. Just 2 seconds, just to straighten out the two of them. I was the one who brought the prevailing case with the MTA on those workers, and I believe very strongly then that we have to make sure that we pay wages so people can live and stay in New York, and that's why I did it.
Mr. Myrie, same question about dealing with the defunding of the city.
First let me put my lawyer hat on for a second. What Donald Trump is doing right now is flat out unconstitutional, and we got to say that very clearly because they are counting on the chaos being normal. They're counting on us being relaxed about this approach because we see it in the headlines every day. It is flat out unconstitutional, and we should not, as a city, hesitate whatsoever to bring it to him when he's coming after our folks in this city. So look, I want to hire 50 more lawyers to our law department so we can go on the offensive. And the best way for us to be independent of the Trump cuts is to expand our tax base. That is why I want to deliver 1 million homes over the next 10 years. It's why I want to extend pre-K and 3K to 6 p.m. It is why I want universal after school for everyone. This has to be a city where you can raise a family, where people can make the choice to stay here, when they can spend their money in our local economy. We can create $18 billion over the next 10 years if we create 1 million homes over the next decade. That is what I plan to do, and I plan to go on offense every single time this bully comes after my city.
Mr. Tilson, you'll get the last word on this. People are talking about standing up to President Trump. Can it ever be smart, in your opinion, to hold your tongue about your worst opinions of him so that New York could possibly get better treatment, or would that not be effective?
Yes, possibly. There's a grim anniversary coming up on Tuesday. It is the 10-year anniversary of Trump coming down that escalator, spewing hatred and xenophobia, and I've been fighting him tooth and nail every day of those 10 years. That said, he is a childish bully, and getting into a Twitter war with him needlessly would hurt our city, I think. He tweets a lot of crazy stuff, and most of the time, if you simply ignore it, he moves on to his next childish foolishness. So to your question, I will fight Donald Trump as mayor, stand up to him, sue him if necessary, but my job is to serve the people of New York, and that sometimes involves not provoking a childish person, but one who unfortunately holds a lot of power, and our 10% of our city budget is federal funding.
Candidates, thank you for this first round.
Okay, candidates, some of you have many years of government experience, while others have spent less than a decade in office. One of you has never been elected to any office. So, and then if we consider age, one of you would be, if elected, the oldest person ever to be sworn in as mayor, while another would be the youngest mayor to take office in more than 100 years. So let me start with you, Mr. Mamdani. What do you say to critics who think that a 33-year-old assemblyman who's only been in office 4 years needs more experience before becoming mayor of the largest city in the country?
What I would ask is for them to judge me by the campaign that I am running. A campaign we began with about 2 full-time employees polling at 1% that has now grown to be one where we manage over 36,000 volunteers that have knocked on nearly 1 million doors. And ultimately, what I will deliver to New York City is what I've been delivering in this race: innovation and competence. And I will do so by hiring the best and the brightest. Because for too long, we've had an understanding of leadership where you simply want to replicate each one of your ideas and hire the people who will be quickest to say yes to whatever you say to them. I will instead hire the people who have the track records, the excellence, the fluency. And it has been a pleasure to meet with incredible officials like Maria Torres Springer, like Patrick Gaspard, like Steve Banks, like Amit Baga, so many who have delivered that public service and that public excellence in this city. And that is what I would be doing as the next mayor of this city of New York.
Mr. Myrie, similar question. What would you say to New Yorkers concerned that your legislative record, however lengthy, is not the same as running an organization of 300,000 employees?
Listen, I think New Yorkers want a mayor that is going to deliver results for them, and to do it when it is difficult to achieve. I've passed over 60 bills that have become the law. But when I ran for state senate back in 2018, Albany was dysfunctional. Some rogue Democrats, propped up by Andrew Cuomo, prevented so many legislation that would help everyday New Yorkers, whether it was protection for tenants, whether it was reproductive health, whether it was climate legislation, whether it was your right to be safe in your neighborhood. And on day one in the state senate, I passed something called early voting, which all of us are going to participate in on this Saturday. So I am about the results and about the work. I have built coalition. I have listened to stakeholders. I've done really difficult things. That is the job of the mayor, to get everyone at the table and to achieve something that people said was impossible. I've been in the business of delivering for the people of my district. I look forward to doing the same thing for the people of New York City.
Okay. Mr. Cuomo, if elected, you would be the oldest person ever sworn in as mayor. If you served 2 full terms, you'd be 76 years old upon leaving office. Is somebody in their 70s the ideal age for holding the second hardest job in America?
Let's do 1 term at a time if we can. I think you raise a very important point. Experience matters. And I think inexperience is dangerous in this case. Mr. Mamdani has had a staff of 5 people. You're now going to run a staff of 300,000 employees. He's never dealt with the city council. He's never dealt with the Congress. He's never dealt with the state legislature. He's never negotiated with a union. He's never built anything. He's never dealt with a natural emergency. He's never dealt with a hurricane, with a flood, etc. He's never done any of the essentials. And now you have Donald Trump on top of all of that. And he's never dealt with what I think is the greatest national threat that we face in this president. To put a person in this seat at this time with no experience is reckless and dangerous. To Mr. Lander and his experience, remember, this was the fiscal watchdog under the Eric Adams administration, which was like the bookkeeper at Tammany Hall.
Mr. Mamdani.
To Mr. Cuomo, I have never had to resign in disgrace. I have never cut Medicaid. I have never stolen hundreds of millions of dollars from the MTA. I have never hounded the 13 women who credibly accused me of sexual harassment. I have never sued for their gynecological records, and I have never done those things because I am not you, Mr. Cuomo. And furthermore, the name is Mamdani, M-A-M-D-A-N-I. You should learn how to say it because we got to get it right.
Yeah.
Mr. Lander.
May I respond?
My response, or is this my 60 seconds on the question?
Let Mr. Landers speak, and then you can respond to both.
Okay.
Just to be clear, is this my response to Andrew, or is this my 60 seconds on experience?
This is your response if you choose.
Thank you. So I've gotten so many Eric Adams contracts canceled, we can't keep track. He tried to put a $432 million no-bid crony contract, and we audited it, and we got it canceled. We have done it time and time again. Andrew knows a lot about corruption. That's part of the experience he had. He created a corruption commission and then killed it as soon as it got too close to him. But his senior aides had to resign in corruption disgrace. And let's be clear, he has experience. But leadership is not inviting 25-year-old young women into your office, as he admitted he did, and then asking them about their intimate life and whether they would date older men. I lead by building the best teams, not through sexual harassment, corruption, and disgrace.
Mr. Cuomo.
Mr. Mamdani's right. He's never done anything, period.
Mr. Mamdani.
This is a man who passed...
Mamdani. Just say the name right, Mamdani.
This is a man who has done nothing. He's accomplished nothing. 3 bills are all he passed. He is the worst attendance record in the New York State Assembly. He has never held a real job. He has 0 accomplishments.
I want to be very clear.
And now he thinks he's going to be ready to be mayor of the city of New York. It is laughable. It is laughable, and it is dangerous.
Okay. I want
really
Mr.
quick, and then
Cuomo
we're
to
gonna
look
move on.
out into the crowd and look at Richard Chow, who lost his brother to suicide because of the taxi driver debt crisis. I went with Mr. Chow over many, many months organizing to push this very city to finally reckon with its complicity in that, and we won $450 million in debt relief. And I want you to look at him and tell him that that's nothing.
Okay, let's
You passed
let's move
3 bills.
Let's move to Mr. Stringer. Yeah.
Can I just cut right to chase and tell what's really going on here? So, truth be told, experience matters. And Andrew Cuomo has experience. I know that. He does. But vision matters. And Mamdani, said it right, right? Mamdani.
Mamdani, almost there.
Okay, I'm getting there.
Almost there.
But you have the vision, and you have articulated it during the campaign. The problem is we need somebody who can do both. And my experience and my vision, when you combine it, is the 3rd lane to win this race, and that's what we have to do.
Very good, very good.
We cannot have a mayoralty on training wheels, but we also have to have a mayor who's willing to go to town hall meetings, to meet with the voters where they are, and that hasn't happened with the experienced candidate. Now, one last thing. Every job I've had, state legislator, I introduced rules of reform in the Assembly and got it passed. As Manhattan Borough President, I actually built affordable housing. I didn't do 1 or 2 rezonings. I did that as my life's work and made a difference. As controller, I built the best controller's office that Brad Lander takes credit for, and I'm proud of that.
Okay, fair enough. I want to bring Ms. Adams into the conversation. Ms. Adams, your private sector experience involved finding and training corporate leaders. Government, however, involves working with people who are independently elected, maybe politically connected, who cannot be bypassed, cannot be fired. How do you avoid falling into the trap of catering to vested interests at the expense, possibly, of the public interest?
Well, in the words of Scott Stringer, let's just cut to the chase. As the only candidate currently doing this work that everyone is aspiring to do, as co-leader in city government and city hall already, as one that has walked up those steps of city hall for almost 10 years, as the one that is leading one of the largest legislative bodies in the entire country, as one that has seen 120 1,000 units of affordable housing coming up in the city, as one who has championed the largest victory for affordable housing in a generation, as one that is already doing this work, as one that has taken private skills from the private sector in management. I have trained people that will make more money than I will ever make in a lifetime. And bringing those skills with me into the public sector, into the New York City Council, now leading a body of 50 council members as the one with the experience ready to go to work tomorrow, because where I work is where everyone else on this stage aspires to work, in City Hall in Adrienne Adams, New York.
Okay. I have a question for you, Mr. Tilson, related to this discussion. You have frequently said on the campaign trail that, quote, career politicians have caused many of the city's problems or made them worse. You said tonight, in fact, that this is no time for amateur hour. Explain why a lack of experience running a city agency would make you a better manager than some of your rivals here.
I actually view not being a politician as a feature, not a bug. It is possible to hire people into administration, of course, who have the experience of running a big bureaucracy. I would point to Mike Bloomberg as my inspiration when I decided to run for mayor. He had never held elected office before. I think he was one of our greatest mayors. He steered us through the global financial crisis, and I believe that having someone like him, who I saw was independent of all the special interests, who in a low turnout off-season primary like what we're having right now, only 5% of New Yorkers of our total population is probably going to be enough to win the primary, and effectively, and certainly last time was enough to win the mayoralty. So I think we need a mayor who is independent of that inherently corrupting system, who doesn't need the job, who isn't angling for higher office, and who brings a business background, which I think is more relevant to managing one of the world's largest bureaucracies.
Okay. Thank you, candidates.
When New Yorkers are asked their top concerns, one of the biggest issues is always affordability, particularly the high cost of housing. Millions of New Yorkers in rent-stabilized apartments are currently awaiting a final ruling from the Rent Guidelines Board about how much they could pay more each month in rent. But first, we'll get to a crucial question about the production of housing. We want you, the candidates, to address New Yorkers with your top proposal to ease the housing crunch. And I'll start with you, Mr. Myrie. We know you've been vocal about a plan to build and preserve 1 million units of housing. You mentioned it earlier. Is that a realistic possibility given the current dynamics in the city?
Let me tell you what's real, Katie. People are leaving the city because they can't afford to stay here. They can't afford the rent, can't afford to own a home. Like me and my wife, who were looking to put down roots in the same neighborhood we grew up in, people are struggling. And we've had leaders of the past that have put their solutions forward, and things have only gotten worse. So yes, 1 million homes over the next 10 years, because we can't keep nibbling around the edges. That is the only way we're actually going to bring down the cost of housing. And listen, is it going to be challenging? Of course it's going to be challenging. But anything worth anything is going to be hard to do. We built the Empire State Building in 13 months, and we did it 100 years ago. Come on already. Of course we can do 1 million homes. I want to change our public land to be affordable housing. I want to convert our industrial areas to residential. We have commercial real estate space that is laying vacant that can be converted as well. We have opportunities to revitalize NYCHA. We got to be bold in this moment, but we need the leadership and the courage to get it done, and that's what I'm going to do.
Thank you. Mr. Stringer, your housing plan is to model a highly successful plan from the 1950s. You call it Mitchell-Lama 2.0. It sounds ideal, but how would you pay for this expansive plan?
Okay, this is where we just got to have an honest conversation. I get 1 million. I could easily say we could do 2.5 million, given my experience. It's all, put that aside for a second. People need affordable housing now. They need low-income housing now. The way we do it is we take the 1,000 vacant lots I audited as controller, and we give that land back to the people to not-for-profits, to limited-profit developers. We don't ask the luxury developers to build the low-end and affordable housing we need. We get a generation of people to come in and build the tens of thousands of units of housing. See, it's not just about building housing. The second question, or the question that I care passionately about, is who are we building housing for? We got to build more housing, 2- and 3-bedroom apartments for families so that after the second kid, they don't leave, they stay here. We need to do what we did with Mitchell-Lama housing, a housing stock that is the best practice in the world. We got to build more of that housing, integrated housing, because the people who moved into those buildings, you know what they did? They didn't just exist in those apartments. They built communities, schools, and daycare centers. And this is a promise I can keep while I'm alive, while I'm mayor, and we'll see what happens going forward. But let's do that immediately on day one when I'm mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Lander, as mayor, you declare a housing emergency which could help you build 500,000 homes, including on city-owned golf courses. How do you get the citywide support for this plan?
So the New York Times opinion panel today said I was the best choice for mayor because I combine clear and bold plans and a real track record of delivering. That is especially true on housing. In the neighborhood around the Gowanus Canal, when I was council member, I organized the community to support redevelopment. More housing, more affordable housing is going up there than anywhere else in the city, and the community's supporting it because it's coming with open space and affordable art studios, as well as 3,000 genuinely affordable homes. We're even fixing up the NYCHA units nearby. As controller, I saved the 35,000 rent-stabilized units that were put at risk when Signature Bank failed by investing to buy the mortgages on them. I know how to do this. I have a detailed plan for getting 500,000 units built. That's around the Interborough Express, where we've got new opportunities for transit-oriented development. And we can build great new neighborhoods on 4 of the city's 12 golf courses because people will be excited about courtyards for families, about daycare centers, about new schools and libraries, places they could own in neighborhoods they will love.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cuomo, you were HUD secretary, you were governor for more than a decade, you managed a nonprofit housing organization. What would you say to voters who wonder if all that experience might end up being, in the end, the wrong experience, since after decades of work, we've ended up in a housing emergency here in the city?
Yeah, I would say, Errol, I would say look at the results, right? Everyone has a plan. I have a plan, I have a plan. Everyone has a plan. They had a plan to build LaGuardia Airport. Nobody did it until I did it. They had a plan to build a new Moynihan train station, but nobody could do it until I did it. They had a plan to finish the 2nd Avenue subway, but nobody could do it until I could do it. Now we have plans to build affordable housing, and we do need hundreds of thousands of units of affordable housing, there's no doubt, but we're going to need a different model. The city HPD does not work to create this volume. The state housing program does not work to create this volume. We're going to have to accelerate the ULERP program, and then we're going to have to open every option available. NYCHA units, office to residential conversion. Every city-owned piece of property we have to look at, air rights, how do we maximize it? We are going to have a full-on assault to build affordable housing. And yes, it's one thing to have a plan. It's another thing to have the ability to do it. And that's where New York City has fallen down time and time again, not the managerial ability to complete a plan.
Ms. Adams, you mentioned the recent City of Yes rezoning that you were instrumental in helping to pass. It's supposed to create tens of thousands of units of housing, but the experience of past rezonings, like the one in downtown Brooklyn, suggests that it can take as long as 10 years or longer for rezonings to result in actual construction. If you're elected mayor, what would be your plan to get units built more quickly than that?
We're going to build it faster, and just to let Mr. Cuomo know, I've got a plan. It's already in the works. It is called the City of Yes, the City for All, something that I have already ushered in. So the work is already being done. We're hearing a lot of plans and policies, but this is something already, I'm already doing this work. We have already begun the works for the City for All, and in that proposal, it is the most aggressive rezoning proposal in a generation for this city to build upwards of 82,000 affordable units for New Yorkers. We want to keep people here. I want my children to stay here. I'm an everyday New Yorker. I don't want them leaving because New York is not affordable for them. And so I have made sure that there is $5 billion that is put into the City for All proposal. So, Mr. Cuomo, we are going to take care of the HPD vacancies within that $5 billion. We're going to make sure that communities like mine in Southeast Queens are protected, infrastructure is protected. We're going to make sure that we've got extended and expanded access to City FEPS vouchers. We're going to make sure that there are repairs available for NYCHA residents and Mitchell-Lama residents. And we're going to make sure that homeowners also have access to funding to make sure that the homeowners have repairs. We won't have to look at foreclosure in the volume, and we don't have to look at deed theft in the volume. I'm already doing the work. I'm already there.
Thank you.
And still on housing, and to bring the last two of you into it, Mr. Tilson, you said in the last debate that your housing construction plan is the opposite of Mr. Mamdani's. More private sector, less public. Can you elaborate on that in your 60 seconds, and then we'll hear Mr. Mamdani argue for his approach?
Sure. If I were to summarize my plan in 4 words, it'd be unleash the private sector. That is the only way to rapidly build anything like the scale that we're talking about. I said it's the opposite of his plan because his plan is to spend $100 billion city dollars to build affordable housing. So my plan, I don't think this should take 10 years if you truly do it. And it's not just zoning regs. It's all the whole bureaucracy going through the city government agencies. It's going through the whole ULURP process. This can be done. Austin, Texas is a good example. Their rents went up 25% in the year 2021. The city leaped into action, quickly changed its zoning rules. They increased supply by 15% in 3 years, and rents dropped by 20%. I don't just want to stabilize rent. I think we can drop rents in this city. That's the objective. But right now, it's outrageous that businesses and real estate developers have to hire expediters to deal with the city bureaucracy. So it's a much bigger problem, and the mayor controls most or all of this.
Thank you. Mr. Mamdani.
I met a grandmother in a senior center in Brownsville, and she came up to me and told me that she'd been on a waiting list for 7 years for senior housing, and that she wasn't sure if she was going to be able to stay in the city any longer. The reason that my campaign is committing to building 200,000 truly affordable homes is because if we don't, we will lose the very New Yorkers who built this city. And we will lose them unless we rapidly scale up the programs we already have. Programs in HPD like SARA, Senior Affordable Rental Apartments, ELA, extremely low-level affordability, the very kind of programs that are built for the New Yorkers who are being priced out of the market. And we do this while also ensuring that it is easier to build even for the private sector. We end the requirement to build parking. We end this piecemeal approach that we've taken, instead having a city-wide comprehensive planning approach. These are the kinds of ways in which we can actually ensure that we start to build more than 4 houses per 1,000 people, that we actually start to get up to Jersey City and Tokyo and build the housing that's necessary in this city.
To finish this round, by a show of hands, I will translate for the radio audience, how many of you would support a rent-stabilized rent freeze this year? Hands up if you do. Okay, the ones whose hands are up are Stringer, Myrie, Mamdani, and Lander. Not up.
Can you state the question, please?
Would you support your donors who gave you $2.5 million to freeze the rent?
In the rent stabilization system. This year, a rent freeze this year. Yes or no, Mr. Cuomo?
Would I vote for a rent freeze this year?
Yes.
I'd leave it to the Rent Guidelines Board.
Now, who controls them? The mayor.
We appoint them. The law controls them. You should read it once in a while.
The law didn't control you, did it?
You should read it.
Ms. Adams, your hand was not up, was it? Why not? Oh, it was raised.
There has to be a balance there,
so
though,
only
between the
Mr.
homeowners
Tilson's
as well,
hand was not up. Okay, that was a yes or no. And finally, also on a show of hands, on rent freeze or no, a listener to my show asks, would you be open to tying rent increases to landlord rates of return, their profits, rather than simply on 1 year's costs? Yes or no if you're open to tying the increases to profits rather than 1 year's cost increase. Who would say yes to that change or that proposal? I don't see any hands.
Brian, it is part of the formula already.
It's part of the formula.
It is part of the formula. Now, you look at a variety of factors, including net operating income relative to costs, as it should be.
Mr. Lander is right. That is the law. You look at the costs that the landlord is incurring, and that's how you set the rent increase if you do.
But also the profits. The
yes,
profit margins.
Yeah, they do an economic analysis.
Yeah.
That's what the Rent Guidelines Board does.
Katie.
Thank you. And this question is for Mr. Cuomo because it did come up earlier. Many voters are grappling with how to disqualify you or not after the sexual harassment findings that led to your resignation as governor. How do you argue people should consider that factor? And we'll let the other candidates give their take.
Yeah, I would ask them to look at the facts and not the political rhetoric that you hear on this stage. I said when the report was issued, it was all political. That's what I said. And I said nothing was going to come of it. 4 years later, we've had 5 district attorneys, Democrat, Republicans, upstate, downstate. They've all looked at them. Nothing has come of them whatsoever. There has been one civil case that's been resolved. I was dropped from the case. So absolutely nothing has come except political fodder for my opponents and political fodder at the time.
Do any other candidates want to chime in?
Andrew, you admitted at the time that you called a 25-year-old staffer into your office and asked her questions about whether she'd had older partners and whether she was available, and intimated that you were looking for a partner. Everybody here knows that you sexually harassed women, that you created a toxic work environment. We're here with all these CUNY students, many of them young women. I went to the City College commencement. The valedictorian is going to come work at the Department of Homeless Services. I don't want to have to tell her, don't go work at City Hall because the mayor is a sexual harasser.
Those are just bold-faced lies.
You admitted
and you know
it at the time.
And it's frightening that you can look at a camera and lie
right now,
that
I'm looking
easily.
At you. You admitted it at the time.
I never said that. I never said that. And by the way, that has been totally disproven by every court that has looked at it. Every
courts don't
legal
disprove
proceeding.
Things. Everyone
knows. Yes, they do, sir. A report was issued. The DAs looked at it. Yeah. They all disagree with you. I was dropped from the case. So those are the facts.
The Biden Justice Department and the Attorney General of the state of New York, and again, it was reported that you admitted at the time that it was a mistake to call that 25-year-old into your office. Folks can check the record.
And the Attorney General
know if he worked for you would fire him.
Hang on. Attorney General's, just wrap up. Yeah. The Attorney General's report was determined by a court to be hearsay and not a finding at all. I understand Mr. Lander is just appalled.
Of the women Mr. Lander accused you of sexual harassment. That's what you're calling hearsay.
The district attorneys looked at all those complaints, and not a single case
we're going in circles. We're going to move on.
Maybe you know better than the facts.
It's obvious that this is disqualifying.
Candidates.
The man resigned. Should be obvious.
No,
the problem is we do not get to address the issues that New Yorkers care about.
Yeah, that's just what we're going to do. That's just what we're going to do. Just hang on. We are done with this topic. We're going to move on to the next one, candidates. Let's talk about quality of life, concerns about disorder and public safety. The number of complaints about disorderly conduct in New York City have nearly tripled compared to the pre-pandemic year of 2018. Arrests for disorderly conduct have risen significantly. But New Yorkers still say they are less satisfied about their quality of life than in the past. So we're going to start with you, Mr. Lander. Do you want the NYPD to address quality of life violations, or is there some other way to do it? And how would you address concerns about quality of life without violating constitutional rights or opening the door to accusations of illegal profiling?
As mayor, my #1 priority will be to end street homelessness for people with serious mental illness. When I talk to people about what's influencing their quality of life, what would they like changed? They would like to be able to get on the subway and feel safer. Last week I talked about a friend whose middle school student was pushed to the ground by a mentally ill homeless person. But we don't have to be a city where a couple thousand of our mentally ill neighbors sleep on subway platforms and the sidewalks and stoops of our buildings. And yes, of course, NYPD have a role to play in keeping neighborhoods safe, getting guns off the street, but no amount of policing is going to connect a homeless mentally ill person to the housing and services that they actually need. The plan that will is called Housing First. It's working in Houston and Denver and Salt Lake City. We used it here to end street homelessness for veterans, and I will use it to end street homelessness for people with serious mental illness, and that'll be a city with a dramatically better quality of life for everyone.
Okay. Mr. Stringer.
Let me try to answer your direct question, which is the issue of quality of life. And to me, as someone who has spent his entire life here, who's raising kids here, people do not want to live with trash. They don't want to live with broken sidewalks. They don't want a 311 system that can't resolve the basic day-to-day issues that New Yorkers face. We've gotten away from that kind of work. You know, swagger, to me, is different than swagger at City Hall today. Swagger means I feel satisfied when we help somebody get the services we need. How I'm going to do it specifically? We got to have a deputy mayor for quality of life and institute what I call quality stat, meaning there's a lot of agencies apart from the police that actually are responsible for the day-to-day running of the city and resolving complaints and issues. We need to measure that. We need to look at the data at 311. We need to do the follow-ups. I'm going to be the mayor in the Ed Koch mode that comes to town hall meetings and communities, just like Ed did as controller, roll my sleeves up, go in front of hundreds of people and say, let me have it. What do you want? What's going on? And I will resolve the complaint in 24 hours. That's the kind of mayor that we need in this city to keep people here and to make sure that we become the beacon of the greatest city in the world.
Okay. Mr. Mamdani.
You know, when I speak to New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs, what I hear time and time again are these very kinds of complaints. Complaints around the cleanliness of our streets, complaints around whether the parks that they love can actually be maintained. And so many of them come back to a mayoral administration that has underfunded city agencies time and time again, literally requesting to take garbage cans off of sidewalks. That's what we have had for the last 4 years. I'm proud to have been endorsed by DC 37, the single largest labor union representing municipal workers in this city. The people who run this city trust me to lead this city. And what I will do is fully fund each one of those agencies to ensure that we are not just providing public service, we're providing public excellence so that each and every New Yorker is finally receiving the quality of life that they deserve living in this city.
Okay. And so, Mr. Myrie, really in a lot of ways what I'm getting at is that the city government and a lot of voters, frankly, will reflexively reach for the NYPD as the best tool to handle what they perceive as disorder, which some people say is kind of a stepping stone towards crime or in some ways a precursor to it. What's your take on that, and how would you handle it?
Yeah, let me first say, Scott, you got a little bit of swagger. You got some sneakers on today, so I don't want you to discount yourself.
By the way, I got it from you.
Yeah, all right, very good. So let me say this. Look, I walk the streets, I take the subways just like you do. And part of the reason that people are frustrated with politics is because you walk the streets, you take the subways, and then you listen to folks on this stage, and it's completely divorced from your reality. Here's what I want to do. I think we need police and clinician teams in our subways and our streets 24/7 to get people on a path to real recovery. New Yorkers are compassionate people, but we want to ensure that people are actually getting that help. So I want stabilization centers in every borough so that we can deliver that help. Public safety requires us to do 2 things. We understand that police officers are necessary, but we also have to invest in the things we know prevent crime and disorder in the first place. That's why I want 50,000 more summer youth jobs, so that it is universal. We have no young person on a waiting list. Stop telling our kids what not to do without giving them something to do. I want universal after school as well, so that we can have a safe place to be and have our families have a place where their children can stay.
Okay. Mr. Tilson.
Yes, to answer your question directly about enforcing more quality of life issues. For example, I ride my bike almost every day in the city. The e-bikes are fast and dangerous, and we're riding up on the sidewalks, blowing through red lights, and cops started enforcing it, and I can tell you, being out there every day, they're now obeying the law. That is the kind of thing that contributes to the feeling of lack of safety. I will say that what I would not do is demonize the police by calling them wicked and corrupt, by threatening to defund and dismantle them, as Zohran has done. And we are at a 34-year low in the number of police officers. There's only one candidate on this stage, him, who has not said that he would try and build that number back up. So I think his Department of Community Safety, which he talks about, is just backdoor code word for continue to defund the police. They are demoralized, they are understaffed, we have created a revolving door where an officer at the Midtown North Precinct, very close to here, actually told me she is still filling out the paperwork for most of her arrests, and the criminal is back out onto the street before she's finished.
Did you want to respond?
I want to say it very clearly, because both Mr. Tilson and Andrew Cuomo's Republican billionaire donors have been lying about me on our television screens and right now. I will not defund the police. I will work with the police because I believe the police have a critical role to play in creating public service, public safety. And fundamentally, when I put together our proposal for the Department of Community Safety, it was built upon the many conversations I had with rank and file officers who had told me that they signed up to join the department to take on serious crimes. And yet what they were being asked to do is play the roles of mental health professionals and social workers. And that is part of the reason why 65% of crimes in the first quarter of this year are still not solved. We need to ensure police can focus on those crimes, and we have mental health professionals and social workers to address and tackle and resolve the mental health crisis and homelessness.
Okay, is it?
I just want to clarify, Whitney, did you not talk about my police retention plan, or you didn't?
Oh, come on, Scott. Ms. Adams, I want to bring you in the conversation because you were at City Hall when the funding question came up that has been interpreted by some as defund the police. What was happening then in that particular session with that particular proposal? And if you're elected, what would you do about this question of where and when and if the police get involved in quality of life policing?
Thank you for asking the clarifying question, Errol, very much. The FY 2021 budget season was a very, very tough season for the New York City Council and, quite frankly, for the mayoral administration as well. We were still masked up in the pandemic, and New York City was very, very underfunded as a city. We were looking towards going in the hole, if you will. So several city agencies had to take a haircut. The NYPD was one of those agencies, as were many, many city agencies. Heck, the New York City Council, we had to take a haircut. So there was funding reallocation that happened across the board for New York City because of the pandemic. So, I mean, services were cut. Many folks out there realized that some of park services were cut and other services were cut as well, unfortunately. So that was the climate that we were in, quite frankly, during the pandemic season. As mayor, though, I know that New York City is fiscally found. Our issue right now is going to be Trump-proofing the New York City, Trump-proofing New York City, which I am doing right now as one who is negotiating the 4th New York City budget, something that no one else on this stage can say. And we've already put aside in reserves, through my leadership on the council, $1.9 billion to begin to protect the people of the city of New York from Donald Trump's harsh cuts. We want the administration to not match us, go above us. We're going to need to make sure that our resources are protected, that our nonprofits are protected, that our children, our seniors, our health care is protected. And as leader of the City Council, I've already made a start in doing just that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Cuomo.
Yeah, if we wonder why the people watching this are frustrated, is because of the disconnect of what they're hearing. They are afraid on the streets. They feel unsafe. You can quote statistics all day long. They get afraid walking into the subway. They get afraid walking down the street when they see a mentally ill homeless person. We did defund the police. We did. We cut $1 billion from the police. People on this stage said, defund the police. That was the chant. And $1 billion was taken from the police department. Mr. Mamdani says he would dismantle the police. That's his expression. Mr. Lander said, I'll admit, progressives like me were slow to recognize the problems of crime and quality of life and mopeds.
See, it's not so difficult to take responsibility, is it?
That's what he said, that they were slow to realize the crime that people were living with. We have to get back to safety. I would add 5,000 police officers. Yes, we need mental health professionals who also help work with the mentally ill, and they're two totally separate things. But this city has to be safe. Opportunity for youth is part of it. But if people don't feel safe, Errol, they're not going to stay. End of story.
Okay, real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think New Yorkers want accountability. They want accountability when people commit crimes. They want accountability when officers use excessive force. They want accountability when top brass violate their office. And they want accountability from elected officials. So, yes, I said we were slow to reckon with rising disorder. Here's how I'm going to actually deliver it. You've never taken responsibility for one single thing you've done wrong in your entire life. Not one single thing. You should try it sometime.
Okay, Ms. Adams, real quick.
Yeah, I just want to clear up the whole defund mystery here that keeps on being used as far as the New York City Council and the FY 2021 budget is concerned. Let's just be clear. The budget is negotiated with the mayoral administration. The NYPD is a part of the mayoral administration, and the reallocation of funds was done with the knowledge of the NYPD, not in any far-off land, far, far away. I don't know how long you've been out of it, Mr. Cuomo, but it's been a while. So I just want to make sure that we are clear here tonight. Old slogans and scare tactics aren't going to make anybody in New York City safer.
Okay, candidates, thank you. Candidates, we're going to move on to our lightning round. That's where each candidate will answer our questions with a brief response, usually yes or no. I'm going to start with a show of hands one. Despite changes in technology, do you still have a Metro card in your wallet? Show of hands. Mr. Myrie, Mr. Cuomo, Ms. Adams still have the Metro card. God bless you. Let's go down. Name one department that you would make cuts to. We'll go right down the line. Mr. Tilson. Lightning.
There's so many to choose from.
Just one.
I think there's a lot of fat to cut in the DOE budget, but there are other areas I would invest more in.
DOE means Department of Education, not the Board of Elections. Mr. Stringer.
As controller, I identified efficiencies in every city agency to make them more run better and efficient. So it's not about cutting or targeting one agency. It's really about doing due diligence in all the agencies. Sorry,
Mr. Myrie.
Yeah, I think New Yorkers experience city services every day. It's not about who has what. It's about how we're delivering. So I think it's important that we are efficient in that. I think we can shift some funding from the Economic Development Corporation to our city's general fund.
Mr. Mamdani.
I think we have to end our city's addiction to consulting and contracts. We're currently paying McKinsey millions of dollars to design a trash can. We don't have to do that.
Mr. Lander.
Last year, we paid out $2 billion in claims against the city. I'll put them on the books of city agencies so they have an incentive to reduce them. They can keep half the savings. It's hundreds of millions of dollars we can save.
Mr. Cuomo.
City government hasn't been properly managed in 12 years. It needs an overhaul from top to bottom. That's what I think has to be done.
Where'd you start? Where would you start?
I think if housing is a top priority, I would start with HPD because that's one of the first jobs we have to start.
Okay. Ms. Adams.
You know, I'm still negotiating the city budget, the only one on the stage that's doing this thing. So let's just be real about it. The mayor actually implemented pegs that took away headcount for many, many city agencies. So I don't think that we're in the space right now to cut anything. We do need to reform and revamp city agencies. So what we need to do is take a look at, as was said, contracts. We've got a lot of bloated contracts out there, primarily because of the cronyism under Eric Adams.
In this lightning round, just 3 yes or no questions from me. Is it logistically possible, Ms. Adams first, to close Rikers by 2027? Yes or no?
No.
Mr. Cuomo?
No, the law is a joke.
Mr. Lander?
Not a joke, but not by 2027 either.
Mr. Mamdani?
No, Eric Adams has made it functionally impossible.
Mr. Myrie?
No, but it needs to close.
Mr. Stringer?
No.
And Mr. Tilson?
No, not by 2032 either.
We'll go the other order on yes or no. Do you support an expansion of red light cameras, Mr. Tilson?
Absolutely.
Mr. Stringer?
Yes.
Absolutely, and I voted for it in Albany.
Thank you, Mr. Myrie. Mr. Mamdani?
Yes, and unlike Andrew Cuomo, I know you can't turn right on red in New York City.
Mr. Lander?
Yes, and with real accountability for drivers who do it.
Mr. Cuomo?
Yes.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
And one more. We'll start in the middle with Mr. Mamdani. Have you ever voted for a Republican?
No.
Mr. Myrie?
I have not, but I voted for a Democrat that ended up caucusing with the Republicans. That's why I ran for state senate in the 2018.
Mr. Stringer? Ever voted for a Republican, Mr. Stringer?
Never in my life.
Mr. Tilson?
Sure, Bloomberg.
Ms. Adams?
No.
Mr. Cuomo? No. And Mr. Lander? No.
This first question, it's a two-parter. I'll start with you, Mr. Tilson. What is your favorite park or playground in the city, and would you, as mayor, commit to at least 1% of the city budgets going to the Parks Department?
Yes, I raised 3 daughters in the city. They're now in their 20s. Shout out to my youngest, graduating from college in 2 days, actually. And I ran the Daddy Olympics in Central Park every day. We circled the park and had a number of favorite playgrounds. I'd say the favorite we called Playground Number 1, which is at 96th and 5th. And I've actually called for permanently making the parks budget 1% of the city budget, so it increases with the city's budget. Their parks are our gems.
Mr. Stringer.
1% for parks, because every kid deserves outdoors, and we have got to make sure we fix all the parks, not just in wealthy communities. But look, my favorite park is where the kids want to play. So if it's on a basketball court, I'm there. If it's Central Park, I'm there. Rockefeller Park, I'm there. I have no decision making it. It's all up to them.
Mr. Myrie.
My favorite park is Prospect Park, and my parents... Let's go, yeah, Prospect Park in the house. My parents are here in the audience with us, and it is where I learned how to ride a bike. It is where they took me throughout my childhood. So I absolutely would commit to 1% to our city's parks. It's a shame that we have not done that already.
Mr. Mamdani.
I would absolutely commit 1% of the city budget to the Parks Department. I'm proud to have done so over the course of this campaign, and I have to say that my favorite park is Astoria Park.
Mr. Lander.
Zellnor Myrie is right on this question. Prospect Park is the best park in New York City, and my kids are here, and they played baseball and learned to ride their bikes, and I was just at the Celebrate Brooklyn concert opening. Yes, we'll do 1%, but we've got to focus it on the parks that need it most. I passed a law that helps us do that, and as mayor, I'll make sure we focus on those parks that have been way too long neglected.
Thank you, Mr. Cuomo.
Yes to the 1%, and I'd also like to see the private sector get involved with conservancies, not just Central Park. It's beautiful, it's Manhattan, but there are other boroughs also, Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, Staten Island, etc. My favorite park is Cunningham Park in Queens, and 1%, but let's get conservancies set up for all the parks.
Ms. Adams.
We definitely have to get to the 1%. We've been fighting in the council for as long as I've been in the council to get there. My favorite park has to be Baisley Pond Park in Jamaica, Queens, of course. That's my district, my park. But we got to get rid of those Phragmites.
And this is a quick one. It's a 1- or 2-word answer. I'll start with you, Ms. Adams. Which borough have you spent the least amount of time in?
Staten Island.
Mr. Cuomo.
I would say Staten Island.
Mr. Lander.
Staten Island.
Mr. Mamdani,
The beacon of free transit, Staten Island.
Mr. Myrie.
I'd say Staten Island.
Mr. Stringer.
I've been doing this. I've been everywhere.
So no, all equal?
They're all equal, including Staten Island.
Mr. Tilson. It was almost a sweep.
Okay. All right, we are going to take a short break now. When we come back, we'll bring you the cross-examination round where each candidate will ask one opponent one question. And because this election will require New Yorkers to rank their candidates, we want to take a moment to explain how ranked choice voting works, courtesy of the Campaign Finance Board. The debate will continue in just a few minutes.
There's a new way for New Yorkers to have their say in city elections. A way that gives voters more choices and can lead to more diverse winners. It's called ranked choice voting. 74% of New York voters chose to use it in primary and special elections for city offices: mayor, public advocate, comptroller, borough president, and city council. You won't see ranked choice voting in general elections or elections for state or national offices. But in ranked choice voting elections, you can now rank up to 5 of your favorite candidates for each office. Here's how ranked choice voting works. On your ballot, you'll see candidates listed in rows and numbered rankings in columns. Pick your first choice and completely fill in the oval next to their name under the first column. Like always, you can just vote for your one favorite candidate and submit your ballot. But you might like several people. If you have a second choice, fill in the oval next to their name under the second column. Do the same thing for your third, fourth, and fifth choices if you have them. A few don'ts. Don't rank the same candidate more than once. It won't help them, and it takes away your chance to rank the others who are running. Don't give the same rank to multiple candidates. It could disqualify your ballot. Don't worry. This is a new process, and you can always ask a poll worker for help or for a new ballot if you make a mistake. So, how do ballots get counted with ranked choice voting? If one candidate gets more than 50% of everyone's first choice votes, they win the election right away. That's it. If no candidate gets more than 50%, ballots will be counted in rounds. Round by round, the candidate with the fewest votes is eliminated. So, if your top-rated candidate is eliminated, your vote goes to your next highest choice. This keeps going until only 2 candidates remain. The person with the most votes wins. Ranked choice voting is already popular in many cities around the country because voters find that it helps more voices be heard. Now it's our turn. Get answers to your questions and learn more at nyccfb.info/RCV.
Welcome back to our Democratic primary debate for mayor, live from John Jay College of Criminal Justice. We're more than halfway through the debate with the 7 leading Democratic candidates. Now it is time for the cross-examination round. That's when each candidate gets a chance to ask one question of one rival. Our order was selected at random, and we'll begin with Scott Stringer.
Thank you, Earl. My question is for Adrienne Adams. So during the City of Yes negotiations, you successfully brought billions of dollars in benefits and opportunity on top of City of Yes. As you know, I've been campaigning because I really do believe we can have a realistic opportunity to take those parcels of land and turn them into affordable housing. Do you envision, or would you sort of signal that that idea could be coupled with funding, the funding that you obtain when you start thinking about your own housing, implementing your own housing agenda if you were mayor?
Well, Scott, thank you for the question, and thank you for recognizing that I have ushered in billions of dollars for housing for the people of the city of New York. Thank you for that. As mayor, I would be open to any feasible option of housing, expanding it for the people of the city of New York. We got to continue this. My work has just been the floor and not the ceiling, so I'm more than willing to expand on the great work that I'm still doing as City Council Speaker.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Myrie.
Thank you. My question is also for Speaker Adams. We have seen over the past 2 decades 200,000 black New Yorkers leave this city. We know that this is a top issue for most New Yorkers, the cost of living here. And I'm wondering if you can talk to us about ushering through the city of yes and what implications that has for black New Yorkers who are struggling to stay in this city and what we could be building on going forward.
Love the question. Thank you very much, Senator. And again, thank you for referencing the City of Yes championed by the City Council Speaker, Adrienne Adams. Thank you so much. Yeah, within the proposal, which the City Council renamed City for All, we've built in financial safeguards for black families, many of whom I'm sure, as you know also, we've seen leave our city in droves over the past 2 decades, and we want to make sure that our families stay here. That is why we have built in within that $5 billion in the proposal, we are protecting homeowners so that homeowners in disrepair can repair their homes. That is built in through the financing. We've also built in repairs for NYCHA families, for Mitchell-Lama residents as well. Rochdale Village is a Mitchell-Lama, the second largest Mitchell-Lama in the city of New York within my own district. So we have built in financial safeguards to protect our black families, families of color, from leaving New York. This is something, again, I live in a black family. I don't want my children to leave, so this is for their protection as well.
Thank you. Mr. Tilson.
Yeah, Zohran, you're a proud member of the Democratic Socialists of America. You refer to each other as comrade. And right now on the DSA's website, it calls for the government ownership of all major industries, to decriminalize all misdemeanors, including theft and assault, to empty our prisons, and to disarm, dismantle, and defund the police. So your words are very reassuring, but this is what I read from your people, and I wonder if you will disavow this or implement it as mayor.
Yes, like David Dinkins, I am a member of the organization, and the organization's platform is not the platform of this campaign. The platform of this campaign is the one you can find on the website at zohranfornyc.com. That's a platform that is going to deliver an affordable city for New Yorkers who are currently being priced out of what is instead the most expensive city in the United States. It's one that we're going to deliver public safety to each and every New Yorker, and we're going to do so by recognizing the critical role that police have to play in that, and also by creating the Department of Community Safety so that police do not have to do the work of mental health professionals, and that we can follow the example, the evidence-based policies we've seen be successful elsewhere in the country, and start to divert those mental health calls outside of the police department so the police department can focus on the 7 major categories of crime.
Okay. Next is from Ms. Adams.
Yes. Thank you. I was looking for Errol to look up because he's confusing me. Oh, okay. Thank you. I have a question for Assemblymember Mamdani. I know how to pronounce your name.
Thank you very much, Speaker Adams.
Assemblymember, I've raised a family in New York. I have over 20 years of experience in the private sector. I have led the City Council through many, many challenges. Taken this city through 3 successful budgets and billions of dollars in city budgets now, working on our 4th, which will also be successful, and have been continuing this work for a number of years on the City Council. In a recent New York Times article, you said that you were the most qualified person to be mayor of the city of New York. Given what I've just laid out, do you think you're more qualified than me to lead the city?
I very much appreciate your work and your leadership and your track record, Speaker. I think that each one of us on this stage will say that we are the most qualified to lead this city, because if we didn't believe that, then we would have no business running for mayor. And ultimately, I believe that because I believe the most pressing crisis we're facing here is one of affordability. And that is something that my campaign has been laser focused on, and that is why I'm proud to say that we are going to address it by freezing the rent for millions of rent-stabilized tenants, by making the slowest buses in the country fast and free, and by delivering universal child care to each and every New York family.
Mr. Lander, your turn.
Peter, will you please stand up? Andrew, this is Peter Arbini. He's been trying to ask you a question for 5 years. His father, Norman died because of your disastrous order sending people with COVID into nursing homes. Then, as you admitted this week, you personally altered the state health department report to undercount the death total, to hide the death total, and then evaded and lied to these families for 5 years. So tonight, will you finally apologize to Peter and other grieving New Yorkers, or will you just keep... Or will you just keep gaslighting them with blather about what a great job you claim you did?
Maybe where you come from in St. Louis, facts don't matter. But here they do. So let's talk about that. First of all, on nursing homes, 1.2 million people died of COVID in the United States. It's horrendous. 83,000 people died in New York State. It is horrendous. It was a pandemic unlike anything we have ever seen. When it comes to nursing homes, we now know the facts because numerous studies have been done. New York State implemented the federal guidance set by CMS, CDC, Dr. Fauci. We implemented it, other states implemented it. That has been proven over and over and over again. When you look at the total death toll in New York, the rate of death in nursing homes, we're number 38 out of 50 states. Only 12 states had a lower rate of death than New York, which is incredible in my opinion, since we had it first and worst, and does not give enough credit to the women and men in those nursing homes who worked so hard. Mr. Arbini lost a father. I am very, very sorry for that. He brought a legal case against the state. The legal case was dismissed. When you look at the papers on the case, there was no COVID-positive person sent from a hospital to the nursing home while Mr. Arbini was in the nursing home. So it is factually impossible, Brad, that he got COVID from someone coming from a hospital.
Okay. Mr. Mamdani.
You know, I want to address something first, which is that...
You're going to ask a question or not?
I'm going to ask a question, but Brad Lander is more of a New Yorker than Andrew Cuomo is, and to hear all of this... To hear all this about St. Louis, we have to just make this clear. Now, all of us on this stage...
Wait, who are you going to ask your question to?
I'm asking it to Andrew Cuomo.
Okay.
I feel like most people would have known I'm going to ask Andrew Cuomo the question.
I knew.
I knew.
And you knew.
We did. We both knew.
We knew. We agree.
All of us on this stage have spoken about how Donald Trump is an existential threat to democracy, to this city, to this country. And Andrew Cuomo, you have received millions of dollars in funding from the very billionaires who put Donald Trump back into office. Will you now look at the camera and tell your super PAC to return those millions of dollars, and to your own campaign to return that close to $500,000 to ensure that this is not a race that is bought by those same Trump billionaires?
I know you don't understand the law, but it would be illegal for me to direct an independent expenditure committee.
Is it illegal for you to direct your own campaign?
One question, one answer.
That's the law, okay? Number two, I dealt with Mr. Trump as governor. We had very, very difficult times. I got more help for New York from Trump than anyone expected. New York was one of the few places that he did not send in troops when he sent them everywhere else because he didn't want to deal with me. That's the fact. I got him to send us masks.
So are you going to return the $500,000 to your own campaign?
And then on your point about, billionaires, let's remember this. I am the candidate on the stage who is supported by more labor unions than any other candidate. 650,000 working men and women support me.
Then why is it that J.D. Vance went to more picket lines than you did?
Let me finish, because they know me and they know my record. The firefighters worked with me in storms. The utility workers endorsed me because I was in Puerto Rico putting the power back together after the storms. Every major union that has endorsed has endorsed me greater than any candidate on the stage.
You get the final question, Mr. Cuomo.
Yeah.
You get the final question to anyone on the stage. Yes.
My question is to Mr. Tilson. We learned today that, shockingly, Mr. Mamdani is not part of the DSA, but we've heard his plans over and over and over. You're a financial man. You're not a politician, Mr. Tilson. Probably smarter than the rest of us in that regard. But you've heard his plans for how to build housing, how he's going to finance the housing, free buses, how he's going to build grocery stores. And he said he can do all of this, and our taxes will not be any higher than New Jersey's taxes.
Question.
You're a financial expert. You've heard this 157 times. Is it feasible and financially possible that he is telling the truth?
I would say no, the biggest piece of his, he says he will raise the revenue to pay for all the things that I can't even keep track of, all the spending promises he's making, by raising the corporate tax rate to New Jersey's level. What he is failing to acknowledge is that there are already many other city and state taxes that, in fact, if his plan were implemented, would result in New York City businesses paying double the tax rate of New Jersey, triple that of Connecticut, 5 times that of Florida, which would lead to an exodus of businesses and jobs and crush our city. But even more preposterous is that this all has to go through Albany. There is no appetite for what he is calling for. And even if it were to pass the corporate tax rate increase statewide, he's assuming that all the taxes all around the state, the legislature would just hand it to New York City. That's truly delusional. So I want to double taxes in New York City. I want to double spending in New York City, but I want to do it the way Mike Bloomberg did it, by doubling the size of the economy, which he did over 12 years. It's economic growth that we need, not destructive policies that would crush growth.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, candidates. We're going to move on to a new topic, and I'm going to ask you as we come down the home stretch, we're in our final half hour, we're going to keep everything a little tighter, and I'll thank you in advance for your cooperation. Let's talk about the fact that even before the war between Israel and Hamas, an unofficial but important task of every New York City mayor has been to bring New Yorkers together, even on issues of passionate concern where finding common ground is difficult. So let's talk for a few minutes about what kind of job you would do in this area. Mr. Mamdani, what is your message to Jewish New Yorkers who are supportive of Israel and fear for their safety in this current political climate?
That I hear them, and that I have heard them over the course of this campaign and before that. After the days of the horrific war crime of October 7th, a friend of mine told me about how he felt sitting in his synagogue for Shabbat services when he heard the door open and a chill went up his spine as he turned around, not knowing who would be there. And I heard that even just recently from a Jewish man in Williamsburg who told me how he locks the very door that used to be unlocked for so many years out of a concern for his safety. I will protect Jewish New Yorkers and deliver them that safety. I will do so as the next mayor of this city. And ultimately, what I will also say is to New Yorkers who have a disagreement with me on any issue, but also on the question of the Israeli government's policies, that disagreement, I know, is rooted in a shared sense of humanity. And in the words of Ed Koch, if you agree with me on 9 out of 12 issues, vote for me. 12 out of 12, see a psychiatrist.
And just as a follow-up, Mr. Mamdani, when it comes to the boycott and divestment movement aimed at Israel, which you have supported even before this campaign, what would you say to people who feel that that is an existential threat and that despite your position of wanting to keep people safe, they feel like you actually either have a different agenda or are in league with people who have an agenda that makes them feel fundamentally unsafe?
I've been very clear, and I will continue to be so, which is that at the core of my politics is a belief in nonviolence, and that my support for compliance with international law is support for nonviolent movements that seek to do so and build on the example that we saw with South Africa. And ultimately, what my focus will be, however, is not on what is happening outside of this city. It is going to be on making sure this is a city that is affordable for each and every New Yorker. What is currently the most expensive city in the country finally be one that the working class New Yorkers who built it can afford to live in, and to ensure that each and every New Yorker feels represented by me as their mayor. Because you can win an election with a majority, but it is your job to represent every single person across this city.
Okay. Mr. Cuomo, according to Muslim American organizations, you never made a public visit to a mosque during your 10-plus years as governor. Why the reluctance?
Yeah, I believe I have. I would have to check the record. But let me correct the record here, if I might. Mr. Mamdani is dangerously divisive.
Let me ask you about this. Because this was an issue in the 2018 campaign when you were running for re-election, when they said that in 7 years you had never visited a mosque. Did something happen in the several years beyond that?
I believe I have. I know I've participated in many forums with imams. I am not, off the top of my head, I can't tell you where I went. But I'll check the record, and I will.
So let me just get to the point then. I mean, what would you say to more than 760,000 Muslims here in the city about whether or not you would reach out to them, make them feel welcome, make them feel protected at a time when...
I would say we are a city of immigrants. I welcome them. I love them. I'm not Mr. Mamdani. I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm not divisive. I didn't say I would boycott Israel. I didn't say I would divest from Israel. I didn't say I would sanction Israel. I don't give forums to anti-Semites. I don't give forums to extremists who blame America for 9/11. I didn't say that I would boycott Cornell Technion because they're pro-Israel. He is the flip side of the coin of Trump. Trump says he'll boycott Cornell because they're anti-Israel. He says, I'll boycott Cornell because they're pro-Israel. Division is our death in this city, this state, and this nation. And division is what Trump sells. We should be selling unity, not the division that this man is spreading.
Mr. Mamdani.
It is ridiculous to hear Mr. Cuomo talk about himself as a man of unity when just yesterday we found out that his super PAC was sending mail that artificially darkened and lengthened my beard to stoke the very fears of that division in this city. The reason he doesn't have a message for Muslim New Yorkers is because he has nothing to say to us, because he doesn't see us as if we are every other New Yorker. And ultimately, the campaign that I am running is a campaign that seeks to go beyond the politics of the Trump era, where candidates on the stage describe me as a monster, describe me at the gates, where they say that I am, in fact, the other. This is a campaign to bring people together. It's why we have the support of Jewish and Muslim New Yorkers. It's why we have the support of people across the 5 boroughs.
Real quick. Yeah. You don't bring New Yorkers together by saying President Obama is evil and President Obama is a liar. You don't bring them together by saying Hakeem Jeffries is like George Wallace and the DAS sending ads to Hakeem Jeffries with watermelons. Koch didn't say what you said he said. He said, anyone who threatens Israel, I would never support.
Okay.
That's what Koch says, and that's you.
We're going to bring in the other candidates. I want you to tell me, and we'll do this 60 seconds and keep it a real 60 seconds. What would you do as far as bringing people together around this particular issue, which has brought people into the streets and caused so much controversy in New York?
Errol, all New Yorkers deserve to feel safe, no matter who they are. As City Council Speaker, I have allocated millions of dollars to combat anti-Semitism. As mayor, I will fully fund to protect all New Yorkers, something that our current mayor has not done. We're going to fully fund the Commission on Human Rights to make sure that we are taking care of all of the citizens of the city of New York. Right now, that commission is significantly understaffed. 20% of their headcount is lacking. And as mayor, I'm going to make sure that that headcount is appropriate and that we are truly looking forward to unifying this city. Anti-Semitism has grown and it is at its peak in New York City. That is unacceptable. It should be unacceptable to everyone on this stage, and it is something that as mayor, we are going to unify this city once and for all and treating everyone as equals.
Mr. Lander.
I am a proud Jewish New Yorker, and raising these two beautiful Jewish kids in this city is one of the great joys of my life. It's remarkable what a haven New York City has been, and I'm going to fight like hell to keep it that way. You can't have to look over your shoulder every time you go to a Jewish communal event like in D.C. and Boulder, and I will keep Jews safe, and I will keep Muslims and everyone else safe. I was at a mosque for Eid last week up in the Bronx of Ghanaian and Nigerians beautifully out in the street. That's the New York City we want. Many Sundays, I go to Union Square for a vigil with Israelis for peace, who are calling for a return of the hostages, for an end to the war in Gaza, a real ceasefire, for the famine to be ended by humanitarian aid. I believe passionately in the vision of Israel as a Jewish and democratic state, but for that to be real, the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza has to end, and Israelis and Palestinians have to find a way to peace and mutual self-determination. That is not the job of the mayor of New York City, but what a mayor can do is set a model for how you bring people together.
Mr. Myrie.
Part of the magic of our city, what makes our city so beautiful, the reason that people come here from all over the world, is that you can be your full self and be able to walk down the street and not feel like you are threatened by violence. You can live out your entire being, pray to who you want to pray to, go to whatever religious setting you want to, and you should have the protection of this city. We have seen over the past few years an unequivocal rise in anti-Semitism, and we must deal with that head on. We must be unequivocal about how we deal with it. But the role of the mayor is to keep everyone safe, and that is what my plan is. I want to restore the funding for the Office to Prevent Hate Crime. I want to ensure that our Commission on Human Rights has all the personnel that it needs to. I want to extend education so that all of our New Yorkers understand the rich Jewish history, but we also have to ensure that Muslims feel protected in this city as well, that we have their back as well. That is what makes New York City, New York City. That's the kind of city that I'm going to lead.
Okay. Mr. Stringer.
Well, let me be very clear. I am not confused about what I believe in or who I am. I am a Zionist. I believe in the Jewish state of Israel. I'm against BDS. It's anti-Semitic. And my wife works at the Jewish Museum, Jewish Heritage Museum, which is a living memorial to the Holocaust. So when I found, as we all did, the horror of what happened in Washington, the Jewish Museum, I really thought about my wife going to work and coming home. And I thought about my Jewish kids, two kids who, one just bar mitzvahed, and I worry about them. And as mayor, I'm going to protect the Jewish community. But here's what a mayor really has to do. We've got to go back to what I used to do when I was controller and borough president. When the Muslim community called me and said, we've had people killed outside our mosque. We need you to be there to support us. I was there. When people were being slurred Muslims because of 9/11 and prejudice was happening all over the city, as one of the highest ranking Jewish officials, I was there. When we needed to bring halal food into the public school system, I brought the Muslim community and the Jewish community together in the controller's office. It was a UN moment. Okay. And we brought the city together. That's what a mayor has to do.
Okay. Mr. Tilson.
Yeah. I want to be the mayor who ends the chaos, not globalize the intifada. I'm part of New York's Jewish community through my wife and 3 daughters. We've been members of Central Synagogue for 25 years, and I can tell you, New Yorkers, Jewish New Yorkers don't feel safe. In the audience today are 2 Columbia University students, both Jewish, David and Maya. They have had their education disrupted, have been harassed, cursed at. David's twin brother, also at Columbia, was punched in the face by one of these mobs. And I hold the people inciting these mobs, the leaders, yes, Zohran Mamdani, partly responsible for this. And when you use words like accusing the only... When you use words referring to the only Jewish state in the world, like genocide and apartheid, when you call for divestment and all, that is inciting these mobs. And he says shared sense of humanity and all these nice-sounding words, but he has a double standard, because if you search his Twitter feed, 15,000 tweets, Sudan, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia don't appear, yet the word Israel appears more than 50 times, the word genocide appears more than 26 times. So that tells you where his heart is.
Okay. Briefly, yes.
I am being smeared for echoing the same words as Israeli historians Amos Goldberg and Daniel Blattman. I am being mischaracterized on the stage for echoing the same words of a former Israeli Prime Minister, Ehud Olmert, who said recently, "What we are doing in Gaza is a war of devastation. It is indiscriminate, limitless, cruel, and criminal killing of civilians." I say these things because far too often we take what can be a place of disagreement and instead start to broach beyond that. And these kinds of characterizations, they are part and parcel of what leads to the dehumanization in our city, which is why an elected official in our own city has called for me to be deported. It cannot be disentangled from what's going on right now.
Okay. Thank you, candidate.
Thank you. This next question is about education. As mayor, you would be leading the largest public school system in the country with more than 900,000 students, all with differing needs. Mr. Tilson, you made education your campaign's focus, one of its focuses, and have been critical of the current performance of the city's public school system. One of the new challenges the next mayor will face is a new requirement to limit the number of students in a class. How would your administration handle this class size bill?
I oppose this class size mandate. It's going to balloon the already $40 billion budget by about $1.6 billion a year. And this has been tried around the country, and it is one of the least effective ways. It does not move the needle on student achievement, because while, of course, all of us want smaller class sizes, everything being equal, in fact, that benefit is offset by the requirement to suddenly hire thousands of teachers who are less experienced and less qualified than existing teachers. And so the benefit from lower class size is offset by less experienced, less qualified teachers. And guess which students get those teachers? It is disproportionately low-income minority kids. This class size mandate would not only hurt our budget, but hurt those children. So I've dedicated my adult life to trying to reduce the educational inequalities in our system as one of the founders of Teach for America, on the board of KIPP charter schools for more than 20 years. And I will put the interests of kids first in a system that, by and large, today runs for the benefit of adults.
Great, thank you. Ms. Adams, same question, the class size bill. How you would handle as mayor the class size bill?
Yeah, thank you very much. No matter how we feel about the class size mandate, it is the mandate. So it is something that we have to follow. I too believe that, you know, as one coming from Southeast Queens, I was education chairperson of my community board, and I can tell you that I walked into many a classroom over the past 15 years or so and have seen the effects of too many students crammed in one classroom. So that is a mandate. It is a mandate for a reason. What we need to look at, though, is the allocation of funds within the DOE. The DOE has the largest budget within New York City of all agencies, and we need to take a look at that money, and we need to make sure that our children are the recipients of the resources within the DOE. Sometimes there are contracts, there are other things going towards the DOE, creating that inflated budget, but we have to make sure that our children are truly the recipients of that massive DOE budget.
Thank you. Mr. Myrie, same question.
So as many of you probably already know, I'm a proud public school kid, went to PS 161 in Crown Heights. They are the crown jewel of this city. I would not be here without it. I think it's really important that we invest in our schools. The reduction of class sizes was something I was proud to vote for in the state legislature because we know and the data tells us that smaller class sizes have better outcomes for the students and for the teachers. But I'd also like to see some more investments in our mental health for our students. We have not appreciated what has happened over COVID-19, the learning loss that is going to have impacts for many years to come. We have to support our students. We have to support our providers. And in addition to that, y'all know what I'm going to say, one after school for all. Every kid in this city, from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, we need it, and we need it now. That is what I'm going to do as the next mayor.
Thank you. And this is another education issue. This question will be for you, Mr. Mamdani. What's one thing you would do to improve education for students with significant or complex abilities who can't be served by their neighborhood schools?
No, I think first and foremost, we need to ensure that they also have high-quality tutoring, which we have seen some steps towards. Part of this also comes back to the ability to attract and retain teachers across the DOE. And currently what we're seeing is that on this discussion of class size mandate, we would need to hire, estimates say, close to 10,000 teachers. When we're talking about paraprofessionals, we have so many vacant positions because these positions simply do not pay enough. I support legislation in the Council 1261, which would create a recurring annual bonus so that we can actually fill those positions. Because ultimately, what every child and what every parent of that child deserves is the same high-quality, excellent public education. And we need to ensure that every single dollar we spend is a dollar that goes towards that. Because as some of my fellow candidates have said, there is too much money in the DOE that is currently being spent on consulting and contracts that are duplicative, that are not standardized, and that could actually be redirected back into the classroom to ensure that every single child is receiving that education.
Thank you. Mr. Stringer, the same question.
Well, I'm the candidate on this stage who has real skin in the game. I have 2 kids in middle school right now, and I see what overcrowded classrooms mean to them and to their friends. And so the bottom line is, if you want quality education, you got to have smaller class sizes. And I have to tell you, you go to parent-teacher night and you talk to the teachers, they know about every child. They know about our kids and all the kids. They do an amazing job, but you know what? 40% of them are leaving after 5 years because we're not retaining them. We're not training them. We're not uplifting them. Tier 6 that Andrew Cuomo did was the death knell for them leaving. I was somebody who believed as controller that managing their pensions actually kept them in the system, and I did that well. But in terms of what I audited at DOE, it is a cesspool. Contracts, secret deals, pay to play. We're going to upend that when I'm mayor. I know where the bodies are buried there. I've been waiting to do this for a long time. But education is the lifeblood of this city. And we need to give parents the resources they need because every kid has something. Every kid needs a little extra. And the kids with parents who have resources, they get it. But the kids who don't struggle. And I want to stop that and end that.
Thank you. Continuing on with education for Mr. Cuomo. Over the last decade, the expansion of free pre-K and 3K has been used by hundreds of thousands of New York families. But there have been issues with implementation and even critics who say other educational initiatives should be prioritized. What would be your administration's commitment to these programs?
Well, we pioneered pre-K on the state side, and we're very proud of it. The more we can do, the better. But let's be realistic about education. We all agree, and you've heard many good ideas here, we want more paraprofessionals, more teacher centers, more after-school care, smaller class size. But we also have a terrible fiscal problem, and this is before the Trump tsunami. So if the state is going to mandate a smaller class size, and we can say, let's agree it's a good idea, the state has to pay for a smaller class size. Otherwise, we're just going to be savaging other parts of the budget. And part of the mayor's job is to advocate for New York City and to have state legislators say, we think it's a great idea, here's the mandate, you must do it, but we're not going to fund it is disingenuous. There's an old expression, passing the buck without passing the bucks. Yes, smaller class size. Please help us fund it so we don't savage other parts of education.
Thank you. Mr. Lander.
My mom is here, who's a lifelong public elementary school guidance counselor, and both my kids are pre-K to 12 New York City public school students. The New York Times opinion panel today specifically praised my education track record, and what's needed is clarity that lower class size, that better student-teacher ratios are good, and a way to get it done. Andrew is actually right that more money is needed from the state, and I've documented how much as controller and said, here's how we're going to go about doing it. We should start in those schools that are low income and highly kids of color and get class size done there. We should do collaborative team teaching, especially to make sure we can provide extra services for students with special needs. There are some amazing models of school mergers like Brooklyn 305 United. The next mayor can reduce class size and dramatically improve schooling for all our kids.
Thank you all so much.
I want to ask a different kind of public safety question. Mr. Stringer, you go first in this round. The city says there were 252 traffic deaths last year. That's a far cry from zero, as in the name Vision Zero that Mayor de Blasio gave to the city's initiative on this. What would you do, then we'll go down the row, to get us much closer to zero traffic fatalities?
Well, look, I think that we have to own up to the fact that Vision Zero needs a lot more vision and a lot more safety protocols in place. We need to have dedicated bike lanes, but we also have to have zero tolerance for people who are abusing this privilege and using bikes and e-bikes on the sidewalks. You can be pro-transit, pro-bike lane, but also pro-safety. We put kids' lives in danger and seniors. So I would certainly revisit education and making sure we have zero tolerance for that interference, reduced deaths. The other thing I want to just say as an elected official, you know, we have a lot of elected officials, my friend Brad is one of them, that goes to every Vision Zero press conference and then talks about the tragedies that befall these kids, but yet racks up speeding tickets and then says, I'm sorry. We have got to, as mayor, saying to the politicians who get the placards, I will pull those placards if you show up at a Vision Zero press conference
Mr. Lander,
and you
your
violate red
response
lights.
to that and your answer to the question.
Yesterday, I was proud to be endorsed by Streets PAC, which is the set of people who have been fighting against traffic violence for decades. You know, I haven't gotten a speeding ticket in 4 years.
That's
so
good.
Scott Stringer can talk all he wants. But what I will do, this is my time, Scott. What I will do is re-implement. I passed as a city council member the Reckless Driver Accountability Act, which looked at those folks who are the most reckless drivers, the most speed violations, the most red light violations,
and you on the list.
and would impound their car unless they actually started to improve. Eric Adams let it expire, even though there's good evidence it was working. I'll expand it to make sure it's in all of our traffic courts, get it back in place. Vision Zero we can have in New York City, zero traffic deaths. That's infrastructure improvements on our streets, and that's holding reckless drivers accountable.
Mr. Mamdani, I'll add another wrinkle from a listener to my show who submitted this question on pedestrian safety. Mopeds, e-bikes, and scooters are out of control and pose a danger, but what specifically can be done to get them to obey traffic laws? So what would your response to the original question and that listener be?
All in 1 minute.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Elizabeth, for the question, if you are listening right now. I'll take that first. You know, the key thing here is we have to understand that so many of the violations of our laws as pertaining to our streetscape are also violations that are the natural result of an economic model of these food delivery apps. When we're talking about so many of the delivery workers, the orders that they have to deliver within a time frame, there is no way for them to be able to obey the laws of the road. And one of those apps is DoorDash. DoorDash has given Andrew Cuomo's super PAC $1 million. That is why when you get those mailers that are lying about me, you see the top 3 donors at the bottom, one of them is DoorDash. The reason they give that money is because they want to influence labor and street safety regulations. They want to ensure they can continue to operate with impunity. I'm going to ensure we come back to a streetscape that is actually one of coherence and order, and we're going to do that by taking on those apps. To your original question, what we need to do is finally fulfill the streets master plan. We are so many miles behind the building of bus lanes and protected bike lanes. Those are critical, not just for safety, but also to ensure that we are finally following the law, which is something that Andrew Cuomo would find to be just guidance, not a requirement.
Mr. Cuomo, your turn.
Yeah. I think Mr. Mamdani starts with the assumption that if you receive money from someone, then you will do what they want. That may work for him, but I'm not for rent and I'm not for sale. So we wonder who's funding DSA and who's funding his BDS movement. On the specific question...
Campaign Finance Board, and you can see all the donations.
Yeah. On the specific question, if I could do it again, I passed the law on e-bikes in Albany. Legislature passed it also, but I signed it. We left it up to local regulation. That was a mistake, because here in New York City, the local regulation has been slow. The bikes are moving too quickly. It's mayhem. Too many people are getting hurt. I would have the apps responsible to license the bike, and they have the responsibility for tickets that are issued to that bike. It's their financial liability. They police it. I would reduce the speed limit down to 15 miles per hour, period. Because if you're riding a city bike, you are as much a subject of the speeding e-bike as anybody else.
Thank you. Ms. Adams.
Yes. The thing that no one is speaking about, when you're looking at planning, there is a city agency that is responsible for that. They are called the DOT. So, you know, as leader of the city council, we have been in oversight with the DOT many, many, many times. And as one of my colleagues mentioned, they are not in compliance with the streets master plan. The agency entrusted by the mayor of the city of New York is not in compliance. And we have had hearing after hearing after hearing. The bottom line is that DOT needs some tweaking in order for us to get this right. So my commissioner as mayor would be one that is able to handle the work put before him or her to do the work that the Department of Transportation is mandated to do for the people of the city of New York. They wanted the responsibility to keep New Yorkers safe, and as mayor, it would be my responsibility to make sure that they are in compliance.
We have Mr. Myrie and Mr. Tilson yet to go in this round. Mr. Myrie.
Thank you. Look, I am in relatively good shape. I'm on my feet a lot. I'm a pedestrian, but I have had to dodge out of the way of an e-bike or a moped. And if you are an older adult, that is a really scary prospect. So without question, there has to be regulation, but the demand is created by us. And the apps that are making many, many, many times over on that demand should have some responsibility and accountability to ensure that things are safe. As you have heard, we are out of compliance with the law. There are new categories of vehicles on our streets that need to be regulated, and our streets master plan must be implemented. I want to ensure that we have protected bike lanes and that we have more bus lanes. But I was proud in Albany to vote for a super speeder bill because we have too many reckless drivers on the road who have done and demonstrated that they don't belong on the road.
We're coming to the end of the debate. Mr. Tilson, briefly.
Yes, I was almost death number 253 last year. I was hit on my bike crossing Park Avenue, and so I ride my bike almost every day in the city. I agree completely with Zellnor about these super speeders. As far as I'm concerned, there cannot be enough of these cameras that automatically catch and ticket people who run red lights and who are speeders. And I think we can use technology both for e-bikes and for cars that speed gate. So I actually am glad to see that Mayor Adams recently adopted something I've been calling for months, that e-bikes cannot go faster. It has to be built into the bike, cannot go faster than 15 miles an hour. And anyone who's a chronic speeder, you can revoke their license, of course, but an alternative middle path is you can install technology in the car that does not allow them to break the speed limit.
Thank you very much.
Okay, candidates, we are just about done. We're going to have time for just a couple of lightning round questions because we've got literally something like a minute left. So let's go with a show of hands. Should the city increase the number of permits for street vendors? Hands up are Mr. Tilson and Mr. Stringer and everybody. Okay, across the board. From what you know, and there's no room for discussion here, legal cannabis shops, are they good for the city on balance? Mr. Cuomo says yes. Nobody else?
If they're properly regulated.
Mr. Mamdani, yes. Okay. Oh, boy. You got one of those?
One lightning round question everybody probably wants to know the answer of. Raise your hand if you know who you're ranking second on your ballot.
There you go.
Mr. Tilson, who is it?
Andrew Cuomo.
It's not me.
Nobody else.
I am devastated.
Going to say who you're ranking second? All right.
Should penalties be increased for fare beating in the subways? No?
No hands?
They're not enforced.
Okay, and then I guess who here still reads actual printed newspapers? Everybody.
These are not hand-raised questions, and I'll start with you, Ms. Adams. Other than rent or mortgage, name one expensive thing in New York you wish was cheaper, very fast.
What? Other than rent or mortgage? Groceries.
Groceries, Mr. Cuomo.
Yeah, food.
Food, Mr. Lander.
Childcare.
Childcare, Mr. Mamdani.
Childcare.
Mr. Myrie.
Childcare.
Mr. Stringer.
100% childcare.
Mr. Tilson.
Groceries.
And starting with Mr. Tilson, name a politician you have a good relationship with, quickly.
Cory Booker.
Cory Booker, Mr. Stringer.
Mostly everyone on stage.
Mr. Myrie.
Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins.
Mr. Mamdani.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who I'm proud to be endorsed by.
Mr. Lander.
State Senator Liz Kruger.
Mr. Cuomo.
Yep.
Mike Bloomberg, David Patterson, thank you for the endorsement.
Ms. Adams.
Attorney General Tish James.
Okay. That is going to do it for this debate. I want to thank the candidates and our partners and all of you at home for watching. If you missed any part of this debate, you can see it in its entirety at ny1.com and the Spectrum News YouTube account. That's where you can also find our other primary debates. Remember, early voting begins this Saturday. Primary day is on June 24th. Thank you for watching and listening, and have a great evening.